Okay, final introduction for the meeting, and I could stand up here for a long time and talk about the gentleman on my right. Dr. Chris Chang is incredibly well known in this part of the world and now globally. He's a humble guy from a poor village in Taiwan, but he's an awesome orthodontist and a great speaker, so I will get off the stage so that you have more time with Chris. Thank you. Go get him, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you to OMCO team for honoring me with this invitation. It truly is a great honor to speak in Asia Demon Forum. But the arrangement was not good enough. Next time, I don't want to speak after Dr. Frank Bogdan. So difficult to follow. Did you recognize he didn't use any script? He didn't read the script. Genius. But I'm going to read my script all the way through. So my first page. The topic today is about extraction versus non-extraction. But extraction versus non-extraction is not the key word. The key word is about how to generate a reasonable treatment plan. The same case, we can do extraction. We can also do non-extraction. And we would love to weigh what would be more reasonable treatment plan for patients as well as doctors. The first slide, probably the most important slide in my entire presentation. When you see this camera, that indicate the information I'm going to talk about is very important. So I would love you to get your iPhone ready and take a photo. Because today's speakers are very greedy. We all want to slow a lot of information into one slide. So it is impossible for anyone to take note. But iPhone alone can solve the problem. Remember, the key word is iPhone. We will never settle for that. Talking about the topic, if you look at 1900, when Dr. Edward Engel published his 6th edition of textbook, he talked about extraction. 7 years later, when he published his 7th edition, he changed his mind. He decided he wanted to be projected as a non-extractionist. He wanted to keep a full dentition intact. So in order to do that, what he did is extraordinary. He used his 7th edition to trade for the 6th edition and burn the 6th edition. That's why today it is very hard for you to find 6th edition, because he assumed he made mistake in 6th edition. So if you go to eBay, and you probably find that this 6th edition cost $200,000 US 4 years ago. Today, it will worth a lot more. $200,000 US for a small book. Unbelievable. Because only 5 copies left in the world. And at home, I have one of them. Do I get more respect from you? I have $200,000 US book. 15 years ago, I started my Damon journey. So people asked me, hey, Chris, since you practice statement, you don't extract, do you? That became a very, very popular question. And so many people ask me. And when you look at the history, because if we want to chart our path forward, we have to briefly look back. So 100 years ago, when Dr. Engel published his book, he talked about non-extraction. At that time, the other gentleman called Kelvin Case, he proposed that we do need to take 4-bicuspid out, but at that time, that Dr. Engel dominated orthodontic profession. So he crushed this gentleman, and so nobody talked about extraction 100 years ago. So when we look back to the extraction percentage, you'll be able to find a very interesting curve like this. At Dr. Engel's era, the extraction rate touched the bottom, almost zero, because all his students were not allowed to take the teeth out. And after he passed away in 1930, his students began to experience the relapse instability of that approach. So back in 1932, he started to take 4-bi out. And to top it off, in 1970, Charlie Tui reported a 80% extraction rate. Can you imagine? For Caucasian patient, he take out 80% of his patient. That's amazing. That's amazing. But fortunately, after that, the pendulum swung to the other end. So today, we will not take so many teeth out. And there are several reasons for that. Number one is the famous Michigan case that popularized the conservative non-extraction modality. And also the European functional price, which will help develop the arch, unravel the clouding, and pendular price from Omco. And probably the most important invention in 20th century is Damon braces. Damon braces can unravel the clouding and develop the arch in a way we have never seen before. So Dwight Damon, he did not only win, he won big in our profession. I think he deserved the Nobel Prize, if we have Nobel Prize in orthodontics. So with Damon and mini school today, we'll be able to solve a lot of borderline case with non-extraction. So if I want to take a wild guess, what would be the extraction rate in North America? It will be somewhere around 30%. This is North America. North America. How about Asia? Asia. We don't have exact number for Asia, but based on mainland China, they report about 80%, 80 for Asian people. So it's a big difference. Remember yesterday, when Sonia talked about his patient population, they most come from Dutch. Do you know Dutch people have a very big nose and thin lip? Of course, you don't need to take teeth out. The only 4 cases he take teeth out is Asian patient. That was really interesting. So I insist that everybody take a photo. You have 2 minutes to take a photo. Two minutes. An iPhone. Is that iPhone? Okay, that's iPhone. Okay. I insist. So 2017, you might wonder, what is the extraction rate in your office? Because we are treating Asian patient. We don't treat Caucasian patient. So you probably want to know what is the extraction rate. But in order to address this issue, it will be difficult that if the speaker cherry pick their case, because you can pick the most successful case, and I have selection bias. So in order to prevent this selection bias, I find out I'm going to present 6 consecutive cases that I treated 6 years ago, because I'm young generation. I just started my practice a couple years ago. I'm not like David Byrne. I'm young generation, so I can only pick up 6 years ago case. So 6 consecutive cases in order to prevent the selection bias. And when you look through these 6 cases, they are not all end up with good result. Some are good, some are bad, and some are ugly. But at least that reflects the practice I have in my office. But the most important thing in this presentation is I want to share with you my thought process about how to make that decision, whether to extract or not, and why. And I want to tell you why. And I hope at the end of my presentation, I can outline a decision-making table which you can follow in the office. That's my goal. And in order to do that, to make things more interesting, I would love to invite each and every one of you to participate in this thought process, so we can diagnose those cases together. So please draw this diagram. You have a paper there. We have 6 cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you also draw this line. And you put the T's you're going to take out. For example, you're going to take out 8. But that's just for example. That's not the right answer. So we just want to exercise the thought process. And if anyone in this room, your answer match my answer 6 years ago, we don't have standard answer, just coincidence, your answer match my answer, I will award you a $300 ebook, 3D ebook that we just launched 2 years ago. So you will have $300 award. On top of that, I think Sandra and Colin probably will give you 10 sets of Diamond Cube. I'm not sure. But anyway, I will donate $300. Anyone who get the right answer. So get this paper ready. Are you ready? Good, let's go. And remember, Caucasian are different from Asian. Not only the color, but also the profile and the expectation for the treatment. You know, in Taiwan, most people in Taiwan grew up with Hollywood movie. So they want to look at that Tom Cruise. So you need to think about that. Their expectation will be something after the treatment, they want to look like movie star in Hollywood. So the biggest difference between Caucasian and Asian is the profile. Sonia, in Taiwan, we don't have a case like this. Wow. Our profile is like this. But those girls, at the end of treatment, they would love to have a profile like this. So that is the challenge. That's why we take a lot of teeth Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to get that. So remember, the key word is reasonable treatment plan. Of course, all these 6 cases you can treat with non-extraction, but we want to generate a reasonable treatment plan in Taiwan, in Asia. Number 1, 31 years old, female, South processes is the one we're going to exercise. Midnight off, open by. So open by, anterior close by, midnight off spacing. What would you do? What is the chip complaint? The chip complaint was spacing and protrusive lip. I'm going to run very slow, so you have plenty of time to make your diagnosis and treatment plan. In my office, when I look at the new patient, I only give myself 30 seconds to look at the case. And when I look at the case, I write down the treatment plan. 30 seconds, that's the time. So write down your answer, extraction or non-extraction, which teeth you're going to extract. David, did you write down your answer? I insist. No. I want your paper and write your name on that. I insist. Everybody in this room, include Colin. Case number 2, reasonable treatment plan. What would you do? Severe crowding, midnight off. Buccal close by, posterior buccal close by, upper second molar, protrusive lip, flaring upper and lower incisor. A bruise. If you have problem with the term, you can ask Sonia. She is pretty good in orthodontic term, okay? What would you do? Which one? Which one? Chip complaint, crowding, protrusive lip. Please also include the third molar. Which third molar you're going to take out? Or you want to take out second molar? And when you work out this case, please remember, the perception of Asian patient is totally different from American or Canadian and Australia. For example, when I look at this painting, I said, what kind of artist would draw a girl have protrusive lip? And the artist argued, hey, Chris, this is not protrusive lip. This is a sexy lip. Well, if you finish a case like this and claim that sexy lip, you're not going to get the fee. They are not going to pay you in Taiwan. This is a protrusive lip, protrusive, bimacular protrusion. So the same girl, in American people's eye, they will say, oh, it's sexy lip. But in Taiwan, we will say that's protrusive lip. They don't want a protrusive lip. So beauty is very subjective. And I just want to give you some cultural background about where I practice. Number 3, adult patient, buccal close by, and big overjet. Full cast class 2, 10 millimeter overjet, adult patient. Adult patient. Chip complaint, posterior close by, and big gap in front. He already decided to take out 4 third molar, so you don't need to worry about 4 third molar. Did you write down your answer? I really wanted you to write down the answer, because I'm going to give you that book, $300 US dollar. In this case, number 3 is different from number 2. They are different. And most importantly, the structure are also different. That guy have a ball. The other guy did not have a ball. So the expectation will be different. Number 4. 13 years old. Count the teeth. Congenital missing lateral incisor. Big overjet. And what would you do? Chip complaint. Crowding, cannot close lip. Lip incompetent. Write down your answer. Number 5. Class 2, Division 2, severe crowded, brought in low second premolar. No, Chris. The molar is class 1. No, the molar is not class 1. My dear friend, think dynamically. When you push the space for the low second molar, and it will become full class 2. So this is a typical class 2, division 2. Not class 1 molar. Class 2, for sure. And the profile. Chip complaint, crowded. Number 4 and number 5, the profile is different. What would you do? Don't worry about the third molar. Just worry about premolar extraction. Whether you want to take premolar out or you want to stay with non-extraction. The last one. The last one is very tricky. Borderline case is the hardest one. Adult patient, young lady, ready to get married. Oh, trouble. Crowding and lip strain. And watch carefully. When you look at the arch, it's only one side crowding, the other side is okay. Only right-hand side. Severe crowding, the left-hand side is okay. And lip strain. That's why it's difficult to make a decision whether you want to take the teeth out or not, and which one you want to take out if you want to take the teeth out. So if extract, then which teeth? You want one side or two sides, or non-extraction? And if you want to take the teeth out, is the sinus a problem for space closing? The sinus floor is pretty low, right here. Very, very low. How can you close the space if the sinus floor is very low? And remember, the sinus floor was bound by dense cortical bone. Complete your answer. Answer shit. Shit. Okay. Oh, this English is so difficult. I was so amazed. My professor spoke 2 hours without script. I think the easiest language in the world will be Chinese. Because when I was 5 years old, I can master Chinese. And then I spent the other 50 years, I still cannot master this goddamn English. Very difficult. So please complete your answer sheet and put your name on it. And remember, we are going to give you $300 book. So all these 6 cases start in January 2011. 6 consecutive cases. And let me conclude my first section. I love this gentleman used to say, the best thing I did was to choose the right hero. Very important for everybody have their mentor. And I think this Dr. Warren Buffett, very, very smart. I don't know where he practiced orthodontic, but anyway, he is quite smart, quite famous. So I'm going to give you a little bit background how I study orthodontic. 30 years ago, I was so lucky. When I graduated from dental school, I completely lost my appetite for orthodontic because the class is so boring. After I finished my orthodontic class, I thought, oh, I will never ever learn how to straighten the teeth until I met Dr. John Lin. I listened to his lecture. And suddenly I find out orthodontics is so interesting. And I believe Dr. John Lin is the best in the world in class 3. Real pro in class 3. So I learned from Dr. John Lin for 5 years in Taiwan. Then I got a chance to study in the United States. Gene Roberts became my mentor. So I learned most of my biomechanics from Gene Roberts. And if you know the history, that Gene Roberts actually is a student of Charlie Burstone. So I'm grandson of Charlie Burstone. Can you believe it? But I'm not as smart like Charlie Burstone. They are very smart. And later on, when I set up my office in Taiwan, I figured out, I assume I know everything about orthodontics. So when I set up my office in Taiwan, the only thing I cared was play golf. So I play golf every day. I play 7 rounds a week, only 7 rounds. And I become the amateur champion in my city until I met Sandra and Colin. One day, Sandra and Colin visit my office and introduced the Damon system. And I've been using Damon ever since. And Sandra and Colin really changed my professional life, although they ruined my golf game. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Sandra and Colin. Thank you. So they are my professors. If you have any question about orthodontics, ask Sandra. So ever since that, I adopt this Damon system. I truly enjoy this system because that really simplified my mechanic. And 1 year later, I have a chance to meet a gentleman from your country, Dr. Ramsey. And Dr. Ramsey became my keynote professor, so I use keynote ever since. I really enjoy using this keynote. And Dr. Ramsey, like Starbucks, and as well as this Apple computer. Most of the drawing that I'm going to show you today was made by Dr. Ramsey. So in order to teach and learn, I think the best way for me to learn is step by step. If somebody can show me step by step, I can learn. If not, I cannot. Because I consider myself is a visual learner. Visual learner can only learn when they see the photo. If you didn't show the photo, I couldn't understand. I have language problem. Remember? I couldn't speak English. I couldn't understand English. So I'm going to show you step by step, especially key step, because every key step involves the mechanic we use in that case. Case number 1. Okay. I go too fast. I'm going to slow down. Case number 1. How many people will take the teeth out to solve the protrusive lip in this room? How to effectively prepare a case report so the audience can understand. For me, if I attend a lecture, I would appreciate if the speaker can show me 6 key steps. First step, present the pre-treatment data, so I know the pre-treatment. Number 2, give the diagnosis and give the treatment plan and the reason why you want to generate this, how you generate this treatment plan, And number 3, show the mid-treatment data. I don't want to listen to people just show me pre-treatment and after treatment and nothing in between. How can I learn? At the end, I can say, oh, this guy is so clever and I am so dumb. Number 3, post-treatment data, of course. And you also need to evaluate your result to tell your audience the good and the bad, so they can learn from your mistake. Because people come here try to avoid the mistake, the future mistake they will encounter. So if you, the speaker, can show the mistake, common mistake he made, we can improve our profession. And number 5, the last one, summarize the treatment tip. Because that is your case. You know why this case worked. So why not just summarize those treatment tips? Like my professor, Frank Bogdan, just showed you this morning about talk. Very complicated. But he was showing the talk issue in a very, very easy way to follow. You did a wonderful job, Professor. Thank you, Professor. Can you tell I'm so nervous after your lecture? Okay, first one. That's pre-data, pre-treatment data. I always look at the contact head. If the contact head is symmetrical, that indicates the structure is not symmetrical. So you have to inform the patient first. At the end, you might get a midnight of 1 or 2 millimeters. That's supposed to be acceptable if the patient argues. So evaluate the contact head, the shape and the length, the mass of the. This case, based on the ABO-DI discrepancy index, we get 35 points. If you have a 35 point, that means this case is a quite difficult case. It's considered difficult case. Somewhere around 10 to 20 is moderate, 20 to 30 difficult case, over 30 very difficult. But anything inside this middle bracket is considered class 1. So the mechanic should be simple. But once you get to class 2 or class 3, they become quite difficult. Fortunately, this case is class 1. So this is also a good picture if you want to take a photo to remember the definition of N on class 3, N on class 2, and full class 2. And the point you can get from those classifications. What will be your treatment plan? My treatment plan for this case was lung extraction. And how can I solve the profile? If I want to solve the profile, I will use IZC score. IZC stands for intrazygomatic crash. And I think Dr. John Lin, my mentor, already addressed this issue yesterday. So everybody should be able to know what is IZC and how to put IZC. Mid-treatment assessment, and I assess the case with SAFE. I think SAFE analysis is required for orthodontic case, especially to evaluate the treatment result. So in this case, when we evaluate 13 months in treatment, we'll be able to correct the spacing and also the class 3 and the open bar. But if you look at the profile, we didn't correct the profile. The profile is still protrusive lip because we are using braces and wire to close the space, using elastic. And if you are using class 2 or class 3 elastic, you probably have to think about they all follow Newton's law, Number 3, action and reaction. So if you want to bring the low inside the bag, the price you have to pay, you will fray the upper. If you want to flip to class 2, you bring the low in, and you will fray the lower. So that's Newton's law, number 3. That's why we need anchorage. In this case, the easier way for me, because I don't use headgear. For the past 15 years, I never put any motor band. No motor band, no TPA, no headgear, no Indiana tradition. Indiana University, almost every case we put a motor band, TPA, headgear. But since I already graduated from IU, so I just, okay, bye-bye. I'm going to go my own way. So I haven't put any motor band for the past 15 years. So in this stage, the patient still complain that the lip profile didn't improve. So what we did is we put the IZC screw to disalign both arches to improve the profile. And I use power chain to hook up on the upper arch. So we'll be able to bring the upper arch backward if we have overjet. And if we run out of overjet, we hook up class 3 elastic to bring the low backward. 2 mini screws can solve the problem. Do you know how long for me to put 2 mini screws? 40 seconds. That's it. Do you know how much it costs? $60. Cheap and easy. So I just put it. And people will say, are you going to school me? No. We just put a device, that's it, like a braces. Never mention about school, okay? No school at all. Device. It's like a bracket. Where you want to put it in? Oh, in your soft tissue, right here. So we glue the bracket on your teeth, and I'm going to put the other thing in your gum. That's it. 26. Why take so long? Because Sonia only take about 13 months. Well, the reason my treatment is always 24 or 26 is because my mindset for the feed collection is always 24 months feed collection. If I finish case within 12 months or 14 months in Taiwan, it will be difficult to collect the fee. You read my lip. The message I'm going to deliver is always deep from my heart. I don't speak from here. Somebody speak from here. I don't. In Taiwan, if you finish the case within 12 months and you want to charge $6,000 US, and the parent will say, oh, Chris, you are so expensive. You only spend 6 visits, and you want to charge $6,000 US. Oh, because it's a fast delivery, supposed to be charged a little bit more. They don't buy that. They just think this doctor is expensive and lazy. Different culture. That's different culture. But I'm going to change that culture later on. So 26 months is considered the average treatment time. So at the end, we evaluate the profile again with this saphrometric. And when you draw the saphrometric, there are 3 keys you have to follow. Number 1, has to be precise, has to be, especially A point. Most people, when they put the A point, they put far back in pre-treatment, and post-treatment, they just recognize the A point a little bit forward. So they have a big change. So A point is important. So number 2, it has to be beautiful. And number 3, it has to be fast. To make a step like this, 30 minutes. Within 30 minutes, you should be able to do that. Everybody. and in computer. Beautiful, precise, beautiful, and fast. Look at that profile. That is exactly what this patient wants. She want to improve the protrusive lip profile. How can we improve that profile? Look at that. 13 months in treatment, we didn't change the profile. And after we insert the ICC screw, we be able to bring the upper and lower incisor backward to improve that profile. At the end, we use CRE score to evaluate the treatment result. We lost 20 points. Anything below 26 is considered American board standard. So those 20 points is considered pretty good result. You're not going to get perfect result. You get good result, you improve the situation. So I'm not crazy about perfect result. How about the treatment detail and tip? In this case, I'm going to walk through you from the beginning to the end, and the best way will be show the process. So 13 months in treatment, I put the mini screw. Mini screw is very, very powerful to correct the midnight. If you have a midnight problem, if you have profile problem, mini screw, very effective, right here. And only 2 mini screws should be good enough. So we are going to correct the midnight. And that's what we get. And that's the result. And in the process, here, December 25. That's very important day. Do you know there are 3 persons who were born in this day? Do you know? Jesus, Isaac Newton. Who is the last one? Good job. December 25. At the end, if you find talk issue, especially the lateral incisor, which my professor, Frank Bogdan, just addressed about the labial talk issue, I personally will put a talking spring. It's easier. Just put a talking spring, and 2 or 3 months later, I will be able to solve the problem. But in the future, that Dr. Dwight Damon will invent the adjustable 3D Damon. So until then, I use the talking spring. So I hope in the future we have this adjustable 3D Damon, so we can get rid of this talking spring. But talking spring is so easy to put in the front case. Also, I will run up and down elastic to correct the overjet in the canine area, and I also settle the first and second molar. I cut a wire from here. I love to cut a wire and settle with up and down because this approach was invented by my golf buddy. And he insists I have to use his technique. So in order to honor my golf friend, I cut a wire and run up and down elastic. I love it. It's easy to do. You just cut a wire, run up and down with chin mark, 2 ounces. And look at the day. It's December 25. 1 week later, which is January 2nd, and we'll be able to settle the first and second molar. And we're ready to take the teeth out. And 1 more week, that's the result. And we take out the braces. So we run this up and down elastic for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Don't run the up and down for 2 months. 2 months, you will extrude the posterior and create anterior open bar. And I also run this anterior up and down elastic to settle. I use monkey, 3.5. And that's the cut wire because the parallel cusp hanging down right here. So I wanted to just bring the buccal cast down, and that's the way we did it within 2 weeks with this chin mark. This is a buccal cast. And 2 weeks later, we'll be able to debunk. And that's the result. Case 2. Anyone in this room want to try non-extraction in this case? How many people want to try non-extraction? You want to take out third molar and dislike the whole arch, upper and lower? Do you think that can improve the profile? And the lady can agree the profile change? Protrusive lip. What I did in this case, the DI is 29. So what I did is I take out 4 bicuspid to improve the profile, unravel the clouding. And I also take out this buccal close by right here, which proved to be not a good choice. Today, I will take out some more. It's easier. And I will show you why. I struggle with this case a little bit. And finally, we'll be able to finish this case within 26 months, like this. To unravel the anterior clouding is easy, but to bring the third molar forward and get the root parallel is a little bit difficult. And I waste maybe 6 months in that process. But at the end, she was happy about the improvement of the protrusive lip. So, and the same certainly will tell you why. The lip improved quite a bit. Huge improvement. Why? Because we bring the upper and lower incisor backward. Almost 6 millimeters. That's how we can improve the lip profile in this case. The lip profile, I think the lower lip, it is 3 millimeters backward, right here. If you try non-extraction in this case, number one, when you unravel the clouding, you will fret the upper and lower incisor. And you wanted to bring 5 or 6 millimeters back for upper and lower. It could be done, but it's a little bit difficult. For me, it's quite difficult. May not be difficult for Dr. John Lin, because he is a true master. But for young generation like me, it could be difficult. So I prefer take 4 out, because I am a reasonable person. You know? Have you ever heard reasonable person? We are all reasonable person. That's the biggest joke in Godfather. When the Godfather, they get together, have a meeting, and they say, we are reasonable people. And they kill people on a daily basis and sell drugs. And they say they are a reasonable person. Godfather. Did you see the chin? Did you see how we improved it? So great orthodontic results are made in the details. Not just a few details, but every detail. So I'm going to walk through every procedure we did in this case. So I summarize the treatment detail and tip. There are 3 tips for the finishing stage in this case. The number 1, reposition versus bending. Number 2, settle occlusion by elastic and cut the wire. Number 3, hard tissue and soft tissue reshaping. Let's go back to number 1. If you find a marginal ridges like this, you can bend the wire, of course. But probably the easiest way would be rebound the bracket. You only take you 2 minutes. Just rebound this second molar, bring the marginal ridge a little bit up, you'll be able to solve the problem right here. So reposition will be easier for this case. And also pay attention, right here. You'll be able to solve these marginal ridges discrepancy. And look at the top. We don't have marginal ridge discrepancy issue. But if you look at the root parallel, because we are taking out the second molar, then try to bring the third molar in, and the third molar root is cone shape. When you have a cone shape third molar, the crown is big, and the root is small. Those are the third molar. Very difficult to get parallel. So the best way to fix that is leave it alone. Pretend you didn't see it. Do not take X-ray, so you will never see the problem of parallel. But I was so dumb, I take this. So I struggled for 6 months, and finally I give up. Nobody will see that if you didn't show the X-ray. And look at the sinus wall. So give up. Number 2, how to settle the occlusion. The way I wanted to do it, I prefer to cut a wire. When you cut a wire, I cut to the canine, and I tie this ligature tie together because we take out the first premolar. So that figure 8 will prevent space reopening, and I run up and down elastic, and I would suggest you only run this up and down elastic for 2 to 3 weeks only. That was suggested by my friend, Mike Steven. He published a very famous article back to 1987 in JCO, and he become very, very famous. How many people in this room heard about Mike Steven? Raise your hand. Nobody. And he kept telling me he is famous. I'm sick of it. And how many people in this room heard about Chris Chang? Raise your hand. Everybody. And this gentleman kept telling me he is famous because he published. But indeed, this is a wonderful approach. You just cut a wire, run up and down elastic. And watch that. December 25, the same day I cut the wire, 2 weeks later, I debunked it. And look at the space right here. We still have a space. 2 weeks later, that's January 4, so 2 weeks and 2 days, we'll be able to settle the occlusion. Is that easy? The answer is yes. It's so easy. Piece of cake. You don't have to use your brain. I don't have brain. So if I can do it, how hard could I be? I'm just Taiwanese. Oh, this is my statement. And remember, this is my statement. When we play golf, he recognized I wear a Seiko. And he said, hey, Chris, what kind of watch you wear? Oh, Seiko, pretty good. Made in Japan. No, that's not a watch. I wanted you wear the watch exact the one I wear, which is gold watch from Rolex. So next day, I have to purchase a gold watch, Rolex gold watch. When I returned to Taiwan, my daughter looked at my gold watch here. Dad, why you want to wear this watch? What's wrong with this gold watch? It's for old generation. So I never want to wear that gold watch. Never buy gold watch. But he wear that. For his generation, it's okay to wear gold. For us, we are young generation. We don't wear gold watch. Oh, the last one, heart tissue. Oh, I have to tell you. When I was student in Indiana, I never learned how to reshape this V shape. Did you see the V shape here? Nobody told me to make interproximal reduction to close this V-shape. Why close that V-shape? Because the lingual marginal ridges are wider than the labial one. That create a V-shape. So you have to trim the lingual marginal ridge at right angle to make it smaller and close the space. Otherwise, if you finish like this, and the girl drink the coffee or tea, they will end up with a stent right there, and it looked like the space didn't close, but actually the space already closed. It's just a stent. So they will ask you to retreat the case. I've been in that situation for many, many times. So I realized, oh, we have to solve that problem. So I look at the textbook and find out the Caucasian, they don't have this kind of V-shape. This kind of V-shape is very popular for Mongolia trade. And I was thinking about, but Taiwan people is not Mongolia. And later on, I figured out for white people, Caucasian, any Asian people is considered Caucasian. It's considered Mongolia. Did you know that? Because the first time they got white up in Budapest is by Mongolia. So when they look at the Asian people, oh, this is Mongolia. So in the textbook, if they say Mongolia, that means it's Asian people. It's not exactly Mongolia. That's just represent all the Asian people. For the Asian people, this is very popular, really popular. So you need to trim that lingual line angle. After you trim this lingual line angle, that's the way I trim it. I like to use burr because it's easier. And because the burr, the fine, very, very fine burr, you can just reshape the curve. If you use the stripping, the same brush strip, it's hard for you to shape anyway, I use spur. Difficult to describe. Can you imagine how difficult for me to speak English? David, very difficult. Finally, when I take out the braces, 80% of my female patients, I would do gingivectomy for them. 80%. Only female. Male, I don't care. I'm terrible sexual discrimination. I prefer female. I don't like male. Okay. For female, I love to spend more time to reshape the soft tissue. So I want to get high, low, high, perfect shape and symmetrical. And it is easy if you know the biological ways, because all are grounded on biological ways. For this case, we do sounding. Before you do sounding, you do need to get the tissue numb. Otherwise, the patient will jump up your chair. Get the tissue numb first. You do the sounding, for this case, a 4 millimeter, and we need a 2 millimeter biologic width, 1 millimeter sulcus depth, so we can cut 1 millimeter gingiva. So how do you cut it? You can cut with blade, or you can cut with laser. Laser is for young generation. For me, definitely I want a laser. No bleeding, and it's easy. But it's a little bit expensive, the machine. For me, it's okay, because money is never been a problem for me. That doesn't mean I'm rich, because I didn't get paid. All the money belonged to my wife. So I don't care those money. I just want to invest. So I use laser. So gingivectomy is a must for every doctor. Every doctor have to learn how to cut a gun. And it's so easy once you know the biological ways. And there is a very famous quote from this gentleman by saying, know everything you can about what you are doing. And this gingivectomy will affect your treatment result. You have to learn. Because you can spend 2 years to line up the teeth. And I said, it's okay. But you only spend 2 minutes to cut the gum, and the lady becomes, wow, that's exactly what I want. Because the lateral incision is too short. And you only spend 2 minutes. And you don't have to use your brain. Think about it. Line up the teeth. You have to use your brain to figure out the talk issue. But cut the gum is so easy. So, severe crowded, once you take out the bicuspid, 014 copper nitride can line up the dentition. 7 months later, only the left-hand side we need to close the space because we take out the right second molar. That's why we have big space in right-hand side. So the left-hand side is so easy. Once we level up, we close the space. But the right-hand side, because we take out first molar, second molar, so it add up 18 millimeter space. That's why I always use buccal-lingual mechanic, which is easy. You put a button and hook out this power channel, buccal-lingually. That can even up the moment that you generate when you put the power channel. Moment. It's like a couple. So that's 26 in treatment, 3 years follow-up. The result hold out pretty well. And she was happy, and I was happy. The CIE score, 20. Anything below 26 is considered acceptable, considered very good result. So 1 month later, I take an impression, the model, and the occlusal settle very well. So the answer for this case is 4-bar extraction, and upper right, you can take out third molar or second molar. Today, I will strongly encourage you to take out third molar, not second molar. So if you put third molar or second molar, that's okay. You got the right answer. Congratulations. It doesn't matter. Number 3. Pretty good. Reasonable treatment plan. Adult patient, big overjet, full cast class 2, buccal close by, huge overjet. How would you solve this case? Boy doesn't care about the lip protrusion, and I don't care neither. I just want to line up the teeth. For this case, I'm going to do non-extraction. Even that he has 10 millimeter overjet. Buccal close by, right here. Is that difficult to fix? No, it's a piece of cake. 10 millimeter, is that difficult? Hey, David, is that difficult to fix 10 millimeter full cast class 2 adult patient? Boy? No, it's not difficult. 10 millimeter. It is really difficult. 15 years ago, I don't have the gut to fix this case. But after I convert to Damon system, I find out it's so easy. And I asked Dr. Jong Lim, why suddenly it's so easy to solve the overjet? And his answer was meow effect. And I have no idea what is meow effect. Is that cat or dog? Meow is cat. Oh, no. It's a Korean doctor invented meow. So what is meow effect? And it took me 10 years to figure out meow effect is the play in the system. So when you have the play, it's easy for you to unravel. It's easy for you to solve the big overjet. Because you didn't bung up the system. It took me 10 years to figure that out. Because I'm dumb Taiwanese doctor. Set up. Because I'm going to use a lot of class 3, so in this case, in order to prevent upwriting the upper incisor, I use high top. Today, I know the lateral incisor, I should downgrade to standard or low top. But at that time, I didn't learn from my professor. Professor, that's your mistake. What's wrong with you? So I use high top on top and low top down below. Why? Because class 2 elastic, the side effect will be flaring the lower incisor. And besides, the low already crowding and huge curve of speed. Take photo. In order to correct the crossbar, I use crisscross elastic. And how can you close the crossbar? You need to raise the bar. I use GIC, glass ionomer cement, type 2, as a biturbo to disarticulate. Disarticulate. Very important. Yesterday, Sonia and David emphasized about how important to disarticulate. I wholeheartedly agree. Very effective way to solve the malocclusion. Disarticulate. 6 months later, we'll be able to solve the crossbar. And the next issue, how do you correct the big overjet? I use IZC scope. So go back to buccal crossbar. If you look at a contemporary orthodontist, he will suggest you needed to correct posterior crossbar and mild anterior crossbar in the first stage of treatment. In this case, because it's debar, so I decided to raise the bar and use crisscross elastic to extrude the posterior. So that's what we did. Raise the bar with biturbo is the key. The crisscross elastic, I prefer to use 3.5 ounce chin mark. But today I learned from my professor, maybe I changed to 2 ounce, I don't know. How about class 2 mechanic? I use IZC screw. Professor, I didn't see any IZC screw in your case. What's wrong with you? I learned from you and you never listen to me. The best way to show your loyalty is to put a screw on the IZCs. And make sure that you learn from me. So you didn't show. Okay, I forgive you this time. And people will ask, how much for you want to put in? 10 to 12 ounces per size should be enough for whole arch distalization. And watch that canine. 6 months in treatment is a huge class 2. Did you see 23 months in treatment? It became class 1. What did I do? I just put an IZC screw, hook out the power chain. Every month I change the power chain. It took me 2 minutes to change the power chain. Never use coil spring, because if you use coil spring like Dr. Frank Bogdan, you don't have to change the coil spring. And the patient will challenge you, hey, doctor, you didn't change the material. How come you charge $200? But the power chain, every month you change it. I change a new material. And they were happy. So I figured out, wow, change the power chain. Solve the problem. It's cheap. And the power chain you're supposed to purchase, you always needed to purchase the power chain from the best company, which start with O. I'm not going to tell you the full name, but that's the power chain I use in my practice. It ends up with O as well. So that's class 2, and become small class 2, and become class 1. Amazing. And the only thing I did is just change the power chain from company O. Okay. And look at the change. 6 months in treatment, we put the IZC screw. And the reason why we want to put the IZC screw is because we don't want to fray the low incisor. If you fray it, it's not aesthetic and it's not stable. So that's our purpose. Because to fix 10 millimeter of a jet for adult patient, it is very difficult for young generation. Believe me. I'm young, but I'm not stupid. I know it's difficult. So with this approach, because the center of resistance is above the arch, above the main arch wire, so when you use the power chain, and you will create a moment, and this moment will bring the entire arch backward into the posterior and also extrude the anterior. So what would you do to prevent the anterior extrusion? Easy. Put a biturbo on upper incisor. That will prevent the super eruption of the incisor. And people ask me, where you want to put the IZC screw? Is there any difference between putting in movable mucosa and attached gingiva? The answer is no. They are equally successful. The reason why they are equally successful because we put this mini screw in a very, very upright position, so the screw head is approaching to the main arch wire. It's not stay in the mucosa area. That's why it's equally successful. If the screw head is in the mucosa area, you might have a problem because if the patient didn't brush, you get inflammation. Every time you get inflammation, you bring the osteoclast. The osteoclast will chew the bone. Once you chew the bone, the screw will loose. So that's why if you put a screw head around the mucosa, movable mucosa, you not only irritate the mucosa, it's easy to get inflammation. So the failure rate is pretty high. So we did a study to test 700 IZC screw that was inserted by the same doctor from Taiwan. His name is Chris Chang. Not Christian, okay? Somebody asked me, are you Christian? No, I'm Christian. So it's Christian. So we published this research in this issue, and the failure rate for IZC is only about 6%, which is pretty low. If you use the procedure that I addressed this morning, the failure rate is quite low. Every single step about IZC screw can be found in this research paper. And you can get this hard copy for free in Newton's A booth. Finally, number 4, we section the wire. And please pay attention to the low central incisor. Did you see any break triangle? Nobody see the break triangle. I didn't see the break triangle. So I decided I'm going to settle the posterior. I'm going to debunk this case. So I cut the wire and settle the second molar based on my Stevens approach, like this. 2 weeks later, I'll be able, or like this, because it's class 2 to start with. So even I section the wire, I run class 2 elastic like this. In order to prevent the rotation of the canine, if you want to use power chain, you leave a spare power chain right here. So you don't apply any force on the canine. Otherwise, it will rotate the canine because the canine, once you cut a wire, the canine becomes a cantilever tooth. So it's easy to rotate. So you either use ligature wire to fix, or if you are lazy, you want to use the power chain, use power chain. But always leave a spare chain right here to prevent the side effect. So every single move you did in your patient is biomechanic. So you need to think the biomechanic. You not just learn how to fix it, learn the procedure. You need to think the biomechanic. So you open up, and 2 weeks later, we be able to settle. So to summarize the wire sequence and the additional work that I use in my case, I use 4 arch wire. Start with 14 copper nitride for 4 to 6 months, and I progress to 14 by 25 copper nitride for 2 to 4 months. In these 2 to 4 months, I will do panel and reposition. Number 3, I will change to 17 by 25 TMA for 2 to 4 months. Sometimes I will use this one until the end. But today, I would definitely want to go to stainless steel, because if you want to develop the arch, TMA is not steep enough to develop the arch. You need to get into stainless steel. 16 by 25 or 19 by 25 stainless steel. And if you want to make detail bending, cut the wire, run up and down elastic. In TMA or copper nitride, you can run this torque spring or anterior root torque, or you want to put a screw at this stage. Take a photo. That's my routine. Easy approach. 4 wire. That's it. So that's the sequence for this case. Huge overjet. And the result. Look at the arch form. We changed quite a bit. And look at the class 2. Even though the second molar didn't settle when I take the braces off. And watch carefully. 1 month later, when I take the impression, and in the stone model, it settled within 1 month. And you have to leave your comfort zone. In the past, 15 years ago, before I jump into Damon system, this case is considered a difficult case for me. But today, I really enjoy this kind of case. It would be better if this case were female case, because I love to treat female. In the future, I want to specialize in female orthodontic. I don't want to treat male. So MORPH is effective to show the patient the treatment process. Be open to new information and class and idea. Think about it. Full cast class 2, big overjet. 2 years later, we be able to get into the class 1 and solve this huge overjet without flaring the low incisor. Look at the low incisor, only 2.5 degree flaring, which is pretty good in this case. Huge change, isn't it? So what is the major mechanic in this case? Crisscross elastic, mini screw, and Damon braces. Huge change. Huge change. Bi-turbo, also the bi-turbo. Top secret. How do you correct the class 2 in adult patient with this IZC? Let me invite my friend Dr. Wangzi to draw this beautiful diagram to show you where is that IZC located. You'll be surprised. It's right here, somewhere around outside the first and second molar, below the zygomatic crest. It's called infrazygomatic crest, right here. There are plenty of bone, and the way we put in is in the upright position. And if you cut through, look at that. One is IZC placement, the other one is interreticular. Interreticular means between the root. If you put between the root, how can you dislike the whole dentition? You have to, you must, And you will put a school outside the root, not between the root. Outside the root is the way to go. So let me cut through the occlusal surface and show you where that school located. Look at that. One is outside the root. One is between the root. That's why we can disorder the whole dentition backward. I just couldn't get it. Why people still put the school between the root. And you keep telling me you are my friend. What's wrong with you, Dr. Park? What's wrong with you? Next time, I want you to put outside the root. Yes. Is that clear? Yes. Outside the root is the way to go. Take a photo. You need to remember this. So important. So when we go back to the intraoral, you'll be able to appreciate. If you put the screw in an upright position, you'll be able to hook out the power chain in every position you have. You can hook out below the platform, above the platform, anywhere you want. But if you put between the root, you only have one position, and that position is most likely you will place the soft tissue. Once you impinge the soft tissue, you get inflammation. Remember, you have inflammation. You have osteoclast, and they will chew your bone. So you got screw loose. Screw loose, you know. We don't want to screw loose. So where is this IZC? If I draw this mucogingival junction, I would prefer to put a screw somewhere around this mucogingival junction. And the approach that I have is a little bit different from my mentor, Dr. John Lin, but the concept is the same. I personally love to use a little bit bigger screw because I think bigger is better. So I like 2 by 12. And I want to have the head at least 5 millimeter outside the soft tissue. 5 millimeter. Does that impinge the soft tissue? No, because it's in the upright position. So it doesn't impinge the soft tissue. But in case if the patient didn't brush, the soft tissue will not overgrow to the screw head. So I this way. Take a photo. Beautiful picture. You have to remember this. Chris, it is not stable because 10 millimeter full cast class 2. 3 years follow-up. The occlusion hold up pretty well. Look at this. The occlusion get even better. 3 years in treatment. Very stable in 3 years. So the answer to this case is 4 third molar. In other words, it's non-extraction approach. I didn't take out the premolar. And we published this case in International Journal of Orthodontic and Implantology. Every single step can be found in this journal. Can you believe it? I think that's the best way to learn. Because I'm a visual learner, and I assume most dentists are visual learners. We can only learn when people show me the photo, the process. And it's free. You can free download in this website. Free. Or you can just scan this one. If you want a free journal and free video, you scan this one. Take a photo. Take a photo. I insist. Take a photo. So to conclude this case, Steve Jobs used to be my boss because I own an Apple store in Taiwan. He used to say there are 3 levels of pro. Pro, level 1 is they have simple solution from simple thinking. It is simple, but most of the time it won't work. The second level is complex solution from deep thinking. It works, But it is so complicated. I couldn't copy that technique. If I couldn't copy that technique, I don't want to listen. I don't want to learn. Because I'm a very simple-minded person, I only learn simple mechanics. And it is the last one called simple solution from insanely deep thinking. And it works. And it's so easy to duplicate. Just spend 2 minutes, put a screw, hook out a power chain, make sure from company O, okay? And you change the power chain every month. You solve the full cast class 2 and big overjet. And that is the one. I really like it. And if you turn to page 142, you'll be able to see this famous statement. Do you want this book? You wanted this book? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, keep it.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a seat. Thank you. Read through the book. In the afternoon, I have a final exam for you. You have to remember every single famous quote from Steve Jobs, my boss. So, when I studied this 3 levels of pro, I was talking to myself. Someday when I grow up, I want to become a real pro, like my mentor, Dr. John Lee. Someday. Mama, I'm not pro yet because I'm too young. Next one, 13 years old, congenital missing. When this young lady, big overjet, huge overjet, crowding, cannot cross the lip. When this young lady came to my office, I was thinking about if I have low lateral incisor congenital missing, I tend to take out teeth to even up the tooth number and close like this. So I decided to take out 3 teeth, 2 upper premolar and 1 incisor lower, down below. First time she visited my office was 9 years old, and I told her, "Ma, it's too young." I personally prefer to start a treatment when the second molar is ready to erupt. Usually it's 12 to 13 years old. I think that's a reasonable starting point. Because if you start too early and you finish the orthodontic treatment and second molar didn't erupt, you have to wait. And if you take out the braces and later on the second molar erupt is in the wrong position, you have to put the braces back in. You waste your time and you might burn out the patient. So my principle is always when the second molar is ready to erupt. So during the treatment, when the second molar erupts, in the wrong position, I can fix it. If in the right position, I just leave it alone. So 3 years later, when the patient reached 13 years old, I take out the teeth like this, and I put a high top on top and low top down below, as I showed you in the previous case, and it went up pretty well. 18 months, we almost done. But when I look at the molar position, it's still class 2. So later on, I told the parent, well, maybe we need an IZC school to distort it. And that took several months to convince the patient to put a school. That's why this case, I waste a lot of time. So 26 in treatment, we be able to get into this stage. For canine, because canine is going to substitute the lateral incisor. The problem for the canine is the root is too prominent. Even you use high top bracket on the canine, still not enough. So I prefer to use talking spring to keep the lingual root top in this case. It's easier. And I also trim this incisor age and 27 months. Unfortunately, the canine and molar is still class 2, a little bit class 2. But all things considered, the treatment result is pretty good. Common mistake. When you are dealing with congenital missing, you need to think about two size discrepancy and occlusal relationship. That was the mistake I made in this case. And imagine you are taking out upper premolar and lower incisor. So upper premolar is about 7 millimeter, but the lower incisor is 5.5 millimeter, not meter. So if you look at this table, you'll be able to understand if you want to take out upper premolar, lower incisor, you probably needed to do more interproximal reduction to reshape the width of the lower dentition in order to get a good solid class 1, which I didn't do in this case. That is the mistake I made, and today I share my mistake to you. So next time, if you make the same mistake, you cannot say, oh, Chris Chang did the same mistake. No. That is not allowed. That mistake, because I already sacrificed my ego. Tell you, that's the mistake I make. So 1 millimeter per side to trim the width in order to match the two sides in this. So 19 months in treatment, we still have class 2. That's why I decided to put a mini scoop. Besides, the upper incisor is too upright. So today, I probably will use that 20-degree pre-torque wire to flare in the upper incisor to create bigger overjet in order to solve this class 2. But that is something I didn't do in this case. So at the end, we still have a little bit class 2 in the other side. But think about a big overjet. We'll be able to solve this huge overjet. And look at the profile. The patient loved this new profile. Huge change, isn't it? And look at the chin. Look at the growth of the mandible. The growth of mandible is so important. I was so happy that yesterday, my professor, David Burnett, talked about mandible growth, which is so important for everyone who involved orthodontic. You should learn mandible growth. For this kid, did you see how much this kid grew the mandible? Almost 3 millimeter. If you superimpose in the lower symphysis, you'll be able to see the big difference between pre-treatment and post-treatment, the profile. And 3 years follow-up, and they love their new profile. Beautiful profile, beautiful girl. So to conclude this case, number 1, there are 5 keys to congenital missing. Number 1, treatment time is important. Wait till full dentition. Number 2, if you want to close space, do substitution, you need to think about tooth size and tooth shape, reshape the tooth. If you want to open the space for implant, for aesthetic, then treatment timing is important. Delay the treatment until 18 years old, because if you open the space for implant at the age of 15, and you need to wait the other 4 years or 5 years to put an implant, after 5 years, the ridge will collapse. So you needed to put a bone. So I would prefer wait until 16 or 18 years old to start the treatment and open up the space. Once you open up, you put the implant right away. Oh, sorry. And for a symmetrical mechanic, when you do the symmetrical mechanic, you need to pay attention to torque. Torque is the key. We are so lucky today to learn torque from the best clinician in the world today. I'm not going to tell you his name. But I believe he is the best. Two size discrepancy for good occlusion. So important. Number 5, class 2, division 2, young adult. Are you going to take the teeth out? Borderline case is the hardest. What would you do? President from Thailand, the most beautiful president in the world. What would you do? That's you. What's your treatment plan? Are you going to take the teeth out? Or you wanted to open up the space? Are you afraid to fray the lower incisor? What would you do? I'm waiting for your response. 32 months, that's the result. She was happy. And later on, she became my staff in my Apple store, the engineer in my Apple store. She worked for me. But if you look at the result, I'm not happy about this result. Pay attention to the low incisor. Because I have to create a lot of space for the low second premolar. So I fray out the low incisor a lot. Huge flaring. Are you worried about the stability? Right here? Today, if I can fix this case again, I will not allow this kind of side effect happen. So how can you avoid this side effect? Easy. Put a mini screw. You can put 2 mini screws or 4 mini screws. And that will prevent the severe flaring of the lower incisor. And it's so easy. You put 2 screws, power chain, or you want to put 4 screws, up to you. Very easy. 2 minutes, you'll be able to put 4 screws. And very cheap. And hook out this power chain. Done. You'll be able to solve this side effect. But all things considered, she was really happy about this result. And how about also keep your focus intact and focus on the solution. Next time, if you have similar case like this, pay attention to the side effect of low incisor flare. And the key is to put a screw to hold up the low incisor. My president from Thailand will challenge me, hey Chris, I bet it won't stay. 2 years. Is that stable? I think it's quite stable. 3 years, it's quite stable. And people will say, hey Chris, 3 years is not long enough. Show me 10-year follow-up. With that, I want to say sorry. Remember, I'm young generation. You want a 10-year follow-up? You ask Dr. John Lin, not me. We are young generation. We only have 3-year follow-up. Wow. Still hold up pretty well. And she loved it. Look at her smile. The eye will tell you the story. She loved this result. And her mom was my caddy in golf course. So I have to be very careful. CRE score was 22, with DI 28 to solve to 22 CRE, which is considered very good result. I think it's good enough. I want to share with you my three favorite quotes. The first one is from Dr. Warren Buffett. I think he is a very famous orthodontist. I don't know where he practiced, but anyway, he talked about stay where you are. You can achieve most of the job. And that was my ultimate goal. People ask me, why you want to put your presentation on the YouTube? The reason why I want to put my presentation on YouTube is because I don't want to travel. I want to stay at home. I'm a firm believer of Dr. Warren Buffett. I want to stay at home. So next time, Sandra, please do not invite me. If you want to listen to my lecture, go to my YouTube. I have 430 presentations on YouTube. It's free. They're all free. So look at those. Every single slide can be found on my YouTube. Number two, this gentleman used to say, I rarely go out because mostly it is a waste of time. Waste of time. And people will say, bullshit. This guy was everywhere around the world. But before he became famous, he stayed in his Trump Tower. If you want to make deal, you need first, he called. If he couldn't solve the problem, then he asked me, come to my Trump Tower. If he still couldn't solve the problem and the other guy is richer than him, he will go to his office. That's it. That's the way he make a deal. Finally, some people ask Steve Jobs, what's the meaning of Zen? And the answer from Steve Jobs is quite interesting. You have to remember this. If you are willing to travel around the world to meet a teacher, that one will appear next door. Wonderful quote. What's the meaning behind this quote? The meaning is, if you already decide you want to become a good doctor, you don't need to go to any Damon forum. Stay in your living room. Watch those YouTube. You'll be able to know everything. So that one will appear next door in your living room. I love that quote. The last one, borderline, is the hardest. How would you solve this young lady? She was ready to get married. And she was concerned about her lip strength. She would love to correct her lip strength. With this low sinus lip, if you take the teeth out, can you close the space? Anyone know the answer? Is the sinus flow a problem for space closing? Anyone in this room know the answer? Nobody in the world know the answer. Nobody in the world. But I do. The answer is it depends. It depends on what kind of case. If it's fresh case, it's okay. Old case, difficult. Treatment plan. I take out 4 premolar and 4 surmolar. And I spent 36 months. And Sonia will question, why you spend 35 months? Because I took the braces off and on 3 times. She asked me, hey Chris, I want to take the marriage photo, so I have to take the braces off. And I have an engaged party, I have to take the braces off. And I have the marriage party, and I have to take it out and put it in. Finally, 3 years in treatment, I'll be able to solve to this. Right here. 3 times. And at the end, she was happy. Midnight on. School to control midnight. How can you control the midnight? School. Look at the profile. Improved quite a bit. Look at the bit overjet. And the solid class 1. So, this case, 4-by extraction. So, the correct answer for this 6 case is number 1, number 3, number 5, non-extraction. And number 2, 4-by extraction, and 7 or 8, it doesn't matter. And number 4 is upper second premolar, first molar, and lower lateral incisor or central incisor. If you got the right answer, you can get a 300 ebook. So you just go to Newton's A, ask my engineer, and bring your iPad. You got $300. Are you happy? Are you good? Do you want to look at what is 3D ebook? I think it's the future of learning and teaching. I really like the 3D. So, since we still have time, I would love to use 2 minutes to show you this 3D ebook. It is the book that combine the test, the diagram, the video, the presentation, all together. And I also build in a dictionary. If your English is not good enough, you also have the dictionary inside this book. And inside this book, I will invite my best friend, Mike Steven, to give you a preview of this book. And this is Mike Steven, very famous, very famous. You can blow up the picture like this and study every single aspect of that case. Or you can have a real model to look at all the aspects, all the facets of this case. And the most importantly, you can have hundreds of ebooks in your iPad. And when you wanted to discuss, you just project to the screen, you'll be able to present your case to the audience. Dr. Parr, you have to get this book. You have to, because you are so rich. Oh, you can put a note. Anyway, finally, I will provide several questions. If you get it wrong, you need to go back and read through it. Certainly the future of teaching and learning. In the United States, there are several graduate programs use this ebook to teach all kinds of male occlusion. And so by far, we've been published 7 ebooks, and some books already translated to Portuguese, Spanish, and Chinese as well. So I encourage you to study the 3D ebook. It's a lot of fun. So the conclusion was, I am not crazy about non-extraction. I prefer individualized treatment planning because every patient are different. Why you want to use one treatment plan to fit all kinds of cases? And the biggest difference between Asian and Caucasian is indeed the profile. Our profile is quite different. Look at that. You have bimestal protrusion, protrusive lip. And Dr. Ramsey has put this beautiful diagram to show you that in Asia, we have so many bimestal protrusion like this. So if you are a reasonable person, I'm sure you are, I think full-body extraction for this bimestal protrusion and crowding will be easier for you and for the patient. At the end, you'll be able to get a good profile, much better profile, much better relaxed lip strain. Look at that, Eli. I like this one. So a reasonable treatment plan is important. So with that, I would love to organize a decision-making table for you so you can follow that decision-making table to prevent the mistake in this when you decide whether you want to take the tooth out or not. So over the year, I find out profile is the most important. You need to study the profile face first. Protrusive profile, you think about extraction. Straight profile, of course, you think about non-extraction. And you also needed to look at a skeletal pattern. High angle case will be easier if you take out the teeth. Low angle case, you don't want to take out the teeth. You take out the teeth, it's difficult to close the space. Number 3, open bite. If you take out the teeth, it's easier because when you retract and you stop the open bite. Deep bite, no. You don't want to take the teeth out in deep bite case. Open bite, of course. Number 3, if you have a flaring, of course, take out the teeth would be easy. Retrokind, you don't want to take out the teeth. Number 4, crowding, especially low anterior crowding. Maxilla is not important because maxilla bone is soft, but the mandible, the bone architecture is very dense. It's difficult for you to expand the lower arch. You can upright the lower dentition. To expand, it's quite difficult. If you have congenital missing or decay, I will take out the decay. Or I will even up the tooth number and tooth mass, like this. I showed you earlier. Number 7, patient perception. Can patient accept extraction modality? If all the parameters indicate it's extraction case, if the patient says, no, I'm not going to take the teeth out, then you have to do non-extraction. Number 8, ETC. I bet you cannot find number 9. What is ETC? Maybe doctor's gut. Do you have the gut to fix the case supposed to be 4-bite extraction and you want to fix it with non-extraction? Gut. Do you know gut? In the United States, they say ball. Do you have a big ball to fix that? Okay. But we are a civilized country. We say gut. Okay. For example, if you have 9 millimeter overjet, high angle, severe crowding, what would you do? A president from Thailand, what would you do? 9 millimeter overjet, high angle, severe crowding down below. Are you going to expand the lower arch? Hey, give me a break. The lower arch already upright and already big, huge. Look at that. How can you generate the space if you don't take the teeth out? Too big. So after thorough examination of this case and follow this decision-making table, I draw a reasonable conclusion that this case must shoot 4-bite extraction, 100% extraction case. And the patient say, no, I already make up my mind. I want to do non-extraction because I am the one pay the fee. I want to be the master of my faith and the captain of my soul. Okay. In this situation, you need to have courage to stand tall and say, I'm not going to treat you. I'm rich anyway. So you turn the patient down. This case has to do 4-bite extraction. Non-extraction will not work. So that's practical guideline. And people will say, hey, Chris, we are in the evidence-based era. 6 cases doesn't mean anything. I know. So my young doctor did a study to look at 200 consecutive cases that we treat from 2015 and look at the extraction pattern and look at here, the gender. Wow, did you see the difference? Huge difference. 70% female. That's exact the direction we are going to go. We want to, later on we want 100% female patient. And what is the extraction rate in Beethoven? Think about it. I have a Damon and I have a mini school. But my extraction rate is still 65%. How could that possible? Dwight Damon only have less 1%. And Dwight Damon didn't use mini school. And you use mini school with Damon. How come you have 65%? You gotta be something wrong. No. If you look at the age distribution, The majority of my cases are adult cases, and it looks like this. 20% has compromised dentition. Needed to take the teeth out. So my basic line for extraction is 20%. On top of that, you look at the profile. The percentage of lower lip protrusive to the E line is 55%, the lower lip. When Elizabeth Menzel visited my office, he looked at my case and said, oh my goodness, it's different from our German patient. Of course, the German has a big nose like this. We don't have a big nose. Elizabeth has almost 0% extraction rate. How about this number one in Spain, Raymond? He has 1%. Less than 1%. I really want to school this guy. 1%. Oh, he is a really good orthodontic, excellent orthodontic. So you may wonder why you have 65%. So the conclusion for this study was the race. Race different. Number two, preference. Most of the patients in my country, they want to have a profile like a Hollywood movie. That's why most of the girls, they come to my office and say, I want to, they will point out which one they want to look at. And dental care, I have 20% compromise, finest. A lot of cases, they don't want orthodontic surgery. And if you don't want orthodontic surgery or implant, I think even up the tooth number, which is take out the teeth, will be easier. And referral. Once you get popular, the best way that people will make you suffer will refer those difficult cases. So those difficult cases usually require 4-bar extraction. So we published this article last year, and if you are interested, you can find it here. The decision-making table is right here. It's free for you to download it. So with Stamen and mini school, I still have 65%. And people will say, Chris, are you a pro-extraction doctor? Don't get me wrong. I have to say, with the power of Stamen and mini school, I will never extract unless it's absolutely necessary. I mean absolutely necessary. I will not. I will never extract. We'll skip this one. Finally, let's get back to this young man. Wanted to have become the captain of his soul. So I turned him down. I said, no, I'm going to do 4-bar. So he walked away. He reached the front desk, and my wife said, hey, young man, come back. What's wrong with that? The bald guy, oh, that's my husband. No hair. Yeah. He tried to sell me that decision-making table, which I don't care. What I really care is I already make up my mind. I want a non-extraction. But he argued it's 100% extraction case. My wife told this young man, oh, don't worry about it. What kind of treatment plan you want? Non-extraction. Okay, you got it. Non-extraction. You pay here, you got this non-extraction. Really? Do you need to look at my teeth? Oh, no, I don't need to look at my teeth. Non-extraction. Okay. So he passed the note to me and said, oh, the front desk wanted you to do non-extraction. And I told my wife, oh, it's impossible, based on the decision-making table. And my wife said, shut up! Nobody cares about the decision-making table. Just do non-extraction. The patient wanted to be the captain of his soul, and we need to make a living. We're from a very humble family. How can you do non-extraction for this case? 24 months. That's the result. Can you believe it? And people will say, hey, Chris, the second molar didn't blue. Yeah, I know. but the front teeth already line up, and the patient was so happy. I'm tired of this treatment plan. I want to get rid of this patient. 24 months. Can you believe it? 24 months. Wow. Huge difference. And guess what? I didn't thread the lower incisor. How can you do that? IZC school and Berkshire school. Wow. I have never seen something like this. Demon and mini school become super power. I really love it. I enjoyed it. And people will say, oh, it's not stable. Really? 3 years follow-up. It hold up pretty well. 3 years. Oh, 3 years is not long enough. Oh, it's not long enough. Especially, the second molar didn't settle. How can he eat? How can he eat? Let me do an evidence-based study to show you he can eat. Look at that choppy face. Does that tell you he cannot eat? Give me a break. Look at that. Oh, okay. So do you need evidence-based randomized clinical trial, double-blind, to test can he eat? No, you don't. I think he enjoyed his food, pretty much. Even the second molar didn't know. If he is happy, I am happy. Most importantly, my wife is happy. Wife is the most important because in Taiwan, the female are the master. We are merely an Egyptian slave. We work very hard and didn't get paid. Can you believe it? 7 years follow-up, that's the result. And you tell me it's not stable. It's stable over 5 years, 7 years. So once you get control, get creative. But extraction will be easier for patient and for doctor. Because we are reasonable person, remember. With stamen and minuscule, you can solve typical extraction case with non-extraction approach. But it is not reasonable approach. What is the retention protocol? I love fixed retainer and removal clear retainer so I can hold it. So I have two. Number one, fixed retainer, and number two, clear retainer. With that, I want to conclude my lecture in this morning. Number one, this issue, extraction versus non-extraction, which one is deceptively simple, yet endlessly complicated, very complicated. Number two, orthodontic. Not only need the knowledge, but also need the skill. In order to get the knowledge, you need to acquire the knowledge. That's why you come here to listen, and you need to practice. After you get the idea, you need to practice at home on a daily basis. And finally, what kind of technique you're supposed to practice? Let me give you my secret formula. And it's because it's so important. I want you get your iPhone ready. This formula is so complicated. There is no way you can take no. And the formula, my secret formula is Damon plus minuscule can solve all of it. With that, thank you for your attention. Take a break.
Good job. Thanks, Chris. One announcement, the course certificates have been printed, so if you would like to pick those up, they're available where you registered for the event. So you can pick those up from now if you'd like to. We'll see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you.